Bonnie, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Here.
Mr. Gottman?
Here.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Here.
Mr. McIntyre?
Here.
Mr. Ritter?
Here.
Mrs. Warning?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Do we have anybody from the audience that wish to address us on agenda items? Seeing none?
Did anybody sign up?
People signed up, but not for agenda items.
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda.
Isn't cheerleading on the agenda?
No one signed up for cheerleading in advance.
Is there anybody in
Did they
the
know it was
audience
going to be on the agenda?
that wants to talk about cheerleading? Because I see cheerleading moms here, and it's on the agenda. No.
Can we listen to hear what's going to be said and then decide? Or do we have to sign up
That's
right
fine.
off
We
the
can go,
bat?
we can go through the meeting. and-
That's up to you guys. I mean,
Speak at the end on non-agenda items if they want.
yeah, you can speak at the end.
Sure.
Section A, minutes of previous meetings. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ritter, second by Ms. Cerrucci. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Section B, bills, financial reports, budget transfers. Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Section B, resolved, the Gateway Board of School Directors approves Sections B1 list of bills and B2 monthly financial statements as listed in Section B at the Monday, September 17, 2018 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Cerrucci, second by Mr. McIntyre. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter? Mrs. Warning? Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Motion carries. Section C, tabled items. Any concerns with that? Remains tabled.
I would like to raise a point of order because it's tabled, I can't talk about it. But theoretically, if something was tabled that was a compound sentence, part of it deserves to be tabled, but the other piece needs to be brought forward and worked on, such as a scoreboard upgrade. Having had it tabled means that both parts are tabled because it's a conjunction and.
What's the other part?
Motion on table, John?
No, I mean, what's the other part of the, other than the scoreboard, what's the other part?
And the
The repair of the existing.
scoreboard that should be repaired, and that we should look for investors for the advertisers.
We've repaired the existing scoreboard.
Right. Repair the existing scoreboard and search out people that want to market their materials on the scoreboard that we might purchase. So it's a conjunction. So we can't repair the scoreboard.
It's already repaired.
We can't repair the scoreboard if it's tabled.
The repair of the scoreboard wasn't tabled.
What was tabled was the purchase of.
The new one.
Read it. I'm just saying, read it.
Motion to untable?
No, I'm just saying it's a conjunction. I'm saying theoretically, because we
It's
can't
poorly,
talk about
I
it
believe it's
once
poorly
on
worded,
table.
John. I think the problem is that this isn't really reflect what the motion is that's actually tabled.
It's listed under this section, items tabled.
Correct.
Is it an item that's tabled?
That's not the issue. The issue is the description that you're taking issue with. The motion,
The proceed part of that.
right,
sentence.
the motion that's actually tabled is a purchase of a scoreboard, period.
And repair of a scoreboard.
No, sir. That was not tabled.
Does anyone disagree with that? Does anyone disagree that the words aren't there that say repair the scoreboard? Because those words are there.
The words are there. I'm saying that it is worded poorly, sir. And that
Yes.
maybe we can do a better
Thank
job
you.
of writing it.
We untable once we can
Thank
talk about it.
That all?
That's it?
Thank you. Section D, personnel agenda. Ms. Crum.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 6 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Monday, September 7th. Under resignations, we have 8 resignations presented for you. Under leave of absence, we also have 8 leave of absence where documentation has been submitted. Transfers, under the collective bargaining agreement, there are 13 recommended transfers. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna- Under employment, section 4, we are requesting the approval of a part-time staff nurse for Maria Montalbano Smith. This is the part-time staff nurse that we added into the budget that will be floating from building to building during the day for coverage. Lunchroom aide, substitute custodian, and a substitute food service worker. Under resignations, under supplemental contracts, we have 2 resignations. Issuance for the 18-19 school year for supplementals and 13 volunteers. You also received this evening an addendum for personnel. One is to accept the resignation of Cindy Stropman. Cindy is a 20-year veteran teacher who will be resigning, and the employment of a 1-year temporary teacher, which is Miss Lauren D. Maria, to fill out that position through the end of the year. Under Section 3 for compensation and benefit plans, we are recommending to pull that at this time.
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Rucci, second by Mr. Ritter. Questions or comments on Section D? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gottman?
I'm going to do aye on everything except, what I do? On section 5, part B, the girls basketball coach, 9th grade, and on section 6, actually, real quick question, there's 2 coach volunteers for cheerleading. What's the other one for?
They're both for the same. It's just 2 individuals will be volunteering to assist.
For the varsity?
Yes.
Okay. Then, no on section 6 for the last person.
And 5 was also a no?
Yeah.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Boba?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. Section E, conferences and conventions. Dr. Jakey?
Ms. Williams, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions as listed in Section E at the regular board meeting on Monday, September 17th. Second.
Moved by Mr. Rucci, second by Mr. Gottman. Questions or comments on Section E? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, Bonnie?
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning? Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Boba?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Motion carries. Section F, administrative resolutions. Dr. Short?
Mr. Shutt. Dr. Short. Section F, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following items, 1 through 6, as listed in Section F of the Administrative Report at the regular board meeting of Monday, September 17, 2018. Those 6 items are comprised of the following: approval of the Eastern Area Special Schools budget for the 18-19 fiscal year is depicted in Exhibit A. The list of school bus drivers with Student Transportation of America for the 18-19 fiscal year, that's depicted in Exhibit B. Special Services Agreement with Wesley Family Services, as depicted in Exhibit C. Approval of a net credit change order number 2 for the Gateway High School Stadium Wall Remediation Project, and the net credit amount of $16,273, and that is depicted in Exhibit D. Item number 5, revised 18-19 school year calendar, specifically approve the revised date for the 18-19 school year calendar, May 21st, 2019. No school, comprised of no teachers, no students, due to Election Day. That's depicted in Exhibit E. And finally, item number 6, acceptance of the district grant received for the 18-19 fiscal year, specifically a STEAM grant, Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3. Recipients were Craig Stanford and Steve Reese. Building STEAM program at Gateway Middle School in the amount of $16,500.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rucci, second by Mr. Gottman. Questions or comments? Section F. Seeing none, can I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Motion carries. Section G, resolutions presented by board members. Hey, Rick, is this yours?
Yeah, it's final approval of policy 122.1. It's a final approval of revised policy, as mentioned, 122.1, athletic and extracurricular activities that was placed on 30-day public display beginning August 14, 2018, and is shown in Exhibit A. So moved.
John seconds?
Moved by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Ritter. Questions or comments?
Sure, Rick, I have a question. There's a clause at the tail end of that says, any coach or sponsor who does not check eligibility and follow the policy will be removed from his/her coaching/sponsoring position at the point of discovery. I think that language has been in there the whole time, but I'm surprised that it's there. In other words, it looks to me, on just reading it on face value, that the first time some coach forgets or doesn't successfully check eligibility, that coach or that sponsor is out.
If a coach plays an ineligible player,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Now, again, that is the current policy. I didn't see any need to remove that and remove accountability from the coaching.
Your interpretation helps me understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Barney, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Comments from residents on non-agenda items. A couple signed up. Lynn Greenway.
My son William wanted to speak first, if that's okay. You said you were going to speak when I was going to call you. Would you like me to go first?
Question mark.
Okay.
Super confused on what's been said.
Can we let someone else go first if they want to?
Sly Butler.
That's me.
Please, yeah, microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sly Butler, 1708 Eagle Ridge Drive. I'm here to speak on the bus stop at Eagle Ridge Drive. I'll start with just the safety concerns of it. It's a half a mile from the front door to the bus stop. There's blind turns. There's really nowhere for the kids to stand currently that's safe. I did speak with the transportation department. What I was told, which you're happy to dispute, what I was told was that the reason why it could not be changed or nothing could be done about the safety concern is that it was a rule, a law, it was private property, and there were no sidewalks in Monroeville, which I didn't really understand because there are sidewalks in Monroeville, but maybe I wasn't clear on what was said. My first inclination was to show up here and show you video, pictures, petitions of the people who came through and just said to me as I was walking my son, this is dangerous, this isn't safe, I don't know why the children are walking up this road. But then I said to myself, what is that going to solve if there is no, if you don't know yourself, if you've not sort of, it's an envision to you, it's not something that's tangible unless you see it for yourself. So what I came here to propose is that maybe I would get a volunteer or two to just show up to the stop, show up to my residence with me and walk the stop. It's a half a mile. It will be a half hour to your time, anyone's convenience, at your convenience, and make your own determination on whether or not you believe that it's a danger. I took some pictures just today of the children coming off the bus stop. And one poignant picture is a picture of a mother, her son, waiting for the kindergarten student to come off, and they are sitting on a far rock. Now that rock is where they sit to be safe and to remain safe until the bus shows up. The problem with that rock is we live in Western Pennsylvania, and it's going to snow. There's going to be 3 or 4 feet of snow between the road and that rock. When that happens, there's one thing that you can do. There is, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's some sort of Indian religious either retreat or something that sits there right on the road. That is private property. And I park there and I stand there to retrieve my son because there is absolutely no place else to go. So that is my proposal. My proposal is someone come and walk and see, because I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I know the solution. I know what to do. I don't know all the policies. We're new to Monroeville. I don't know all the policies and procedures that go with making it safer. But I know that all of you volunteer your time, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't care about the kids' safety first and foremost. So I stand here before you sort of perplexed on what to do. I would love any suggestion that anyone had on trying to fix the problem, but currently it is a problem. And I understand when I spoke to you that sort of all bus stops are created equal. Some people have to walk, some people have hills. I completely understand that, but my analogy to the department was there's pit bulls and poodles. They're both dogs. But if one's walking at you in the dark alley, you're going the other way for the pit bull and you're going to pet the poodle. Now, they're both dogs. But there is a difference. And there's a difference between walking a straight line to a bus stop and walking up a blind hill with people coming down at 25, 30 miles an hour who can't see you until they're up on you. The elementary school kids walk it, the middle school kids walk it, the high school kids walk it. I'm not sure if there should be a determination. To me, it's all dangerous, but especially elementary school kids, I don't know how a mother walking their child and pushing a stroller, I don't know how that's safe. And I understand that the burden is on the parent for safety, but if there is no safe option, then I'm not sure how that burden can be fulfilled. Thank you very much for your time. Yes.
I want to speak. First off, thank you for the information. I think you articulated that very well to everyone here in this group. Speaking on behalf of the board, I do know that we care for safety and well-being of every child. And in fact, I do know a couple of board members who have joined me in going out to various bus stops, along with Mrs. Isha, where there's been some questions about safety. We will do the same. You can expect to see me. You might not see me, but I will be there to look at the situation with Mrs. Isha as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lynn?
My name is Lynn Greenway. My address is 4723 Lolly Drive in Monroeville. I'm here to speak about the school district's new health and wellness policy, specifically how it relates to children with food allergies. I am obviously a mother in the Gateway School District. I have 4 children. I have 4 children who have food allergies. My oldest not only has life-threatening food allergies, but another inflammatory condition called eosinophilic esophagitis, which also further restricts his dietary intake. At the moment, he is avoiding eggs, dairy, wheat, peanut, tree nut, sesame seed. Those are the ones that are the most severe. He also avoids things like bananas and cantaloupe and honeydew and grapes. My next oldest is a 3rd grader. She can't do stone fruits. They cause oral allergy syndrome, which causes itching and inflammation in her mouth. Child number 3, who was a 1st grader, I thought was the one to escape food allergies until this summer when she was fed a peanut a peanut-filled cookie at a swimming pool and had a reaction. My youngest, who's in preschool and will be attending University Park next year, is allergic to peanuts, eggs, and dairy. What I'd like to help the school board understand is that there are 8 major allergens that are responsible for most of the reactions in the United States. Those are eggs, milk, wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, shellfish, and fish. They're considering adding a 9th, which would be sesame seeds, to that list. However, even out of those 8, there are over 170 foods that have been identified as allergens in the United States. Up to 15 million Americans have food allergies. 5.6 of them are children, which puts it at about 1 in 13 children have a food allergy. Every 3 minutes in the United States, a food allergy reaction sends someone to the emergency room. Approximately 1 out of every 4 times that epinephrine was administered in a school setting, that child did not previously know that they had a food allergy. Food allergies are obviously a major concern, and I am grateful for the school board for adopting a policy to try to mitigate the impact of these food allergies in the classrooms. However, there are a few problems that I have with this new policy. The first is that the policy seems to be based on several assumptions. The first assumption is that if we can remove peanuts and tree nuts from the classroom, that these children will be safe. However, there are 170 possible food allergens. It is not possible to remove all food allergens from the classroom. The second assumption seems to be that the nurses, although they are wonderful and I've worked many times with them, are able to correctly read food labels and choose a substituted item from a list. However, when reading from food allergies, it is extremely complicated. The label must be read every time. In our household, I not only read the label while I'm shopping, I read the label while I'm putting the groceries away, and if it's a new item to our family, I read the label before I serve it to my children. 3 times reading the label to be sure that I haven't made a mistake, because to be honest, I've made mistakes, and I've been dealing with this for 11 years. Not only that, but reading the labels themselves are complicated. Eggs, for example, when you read for an egg allergy, you need to watch for eggs, yolks, whites, egg solids, powdered eggs, dried eggs, eggnog, albumin, lysosine, mayonnaise, meringue powder, ovalbumin, and surimi. That's just for one of my son's allergies. Now, if you're trying to multiply that by 170 potential allergens, by 1 in 13 children across the school district, it is an overwhelming task and one that the nurses really are not capable of handling. I have a dear friend who wasn't able to attend with me tonight whose son has celiac disease. And immediately after this policy was enacted, one of the children wanted to bring in cupcakes. The nurse had no way to read the lists to determine what was safe for her son, so she called my friend and said, "What on this list can your son have for this birthday party?" Well, unfortunately, my friend didn't have the ingredient lists for anything on the school-approved list and had no way to tell her and said, "I'm sorry, I cannot choose an item from this list." So the nurse wasn't able to do it by herself, and the parent wasn't able to do it as well. The other problem is that this policy makes it more difficult for me to mitigate the isolating and stigmatizing effects of my son's food allergies. Every time there's a birthday, every time there's a celebration, every time there's an event, my son is isolated from the rest of the group, and that will follow him through his entire life. I, as a parent, have fought to mitigate some of that isolation. If there's a birthday party, I send in a will-safe cupcake. That's a cupcake that's free of all of those allergens that I listed. If there's a pizza party, I find out about it and find a way to send in something. Unfortunately, now with the new policy, the school is not capable of providing a will-safe cupcake for my son. And so he can't have the same thing that everybody else has, only safe for him. He has to choose something else from the list. And unfortunately, with the current list that they have, that leads him to have carrots without the ranch dressing. He can have an apple, and maybe we're hoping that he might be able to have one of the fruit snacks. We'll have to see about that one. I haven't read the list. I haven't read the ingredient list on that. The other problem that I have with the policy is that it removes a support system that I have in place for dealing with my son's food allergies. I am blessed to have a wonderful group of teachers, administrators, nurses, and even PTO leaders. I've had teachers that have called me from the grocery store trying to choose something that would be appropriate for my son that the whole class can have. I've had teachers and principals text me midday pictures of ingredient lists. I've had PTO reconsider fundraising when I've complained that too many of the fundraisers are food-based. I have this wonderful support system, and now instead of that support system, I have a list and the hope that one of those items will be safe for my son. The final problem that I have with the policy is that even if it were even if it was possible to choose foods that would be safe for children with 170 different foods, it does nothing to mitigate the effects of the children that have diabetes, for example, eosinophilic esophagitis, for example. It does nothing for the children that have religious dietary restrictions or dietary restrictions for moral or personal reasons. All of these children are stigmatized, and unfortunately, the policy that we've had does nothing to help them. It just further stigmatizes them. There are many options. I know I don't have a lot of time. I would be happy to discuss them. I would be willing to point people in the direction, for example, of the CDC's guideline for the management of food allergies in schools and early education settings. Also, the Pennsylvania education department has a guideline for voluntary management of food allergies in classrooms. Both of those would be wonderful places to start. I really feel that the Gateway School District has my children's best interest at heart. I'm glad to be a part of this district. I just think that instead of borrowing a policy from a neighboring school district, that we could craft our own that would better resolve these concerns for so many of these children.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So can I just ask you, you said what you didn't like about the policy. Are you asking that the parents of kids with food allergies be allowed to bring treats in, or are you asking that we not have treats at all? I'm just kind of getting what you don't like, but what would you like to see done?
What I would like to see, if I could have absolutely my own way, which is not what I'm advocating for, it would be that food would be restricted to limited locations in the building. So instead of the library having treats during a board meeting or during a PTO meeting or something, that wouldn't happen anymore, that food would be only in the lunchroom. And that especially food would be reduced as a reward system. The class should not be earning ice cream parties when 2 or 3 kids in the class can't have the ice cream and they have earned the reward. I'm willing to compromise, though, and most parents of children with food allergies realize that we can't expect the entire class to go free of dairy and gluten and peanuts and tree nuts and everything else that our children may be allergic to. So my compromise would be to restrict food as a reward system. And if that means that children are allowed to bring birthday treats, then so be it. Perhaps there could be a safe list based on the children in that particular classroom, or that's been approved by the school board that will handle allergies for a lot of those children.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
My son asked, we were talking about this at home, and I said, well, you're the one with the allergies. Do you want to come? And I was really proud of him. This was a good mother moment. He said, yes, I'll come and talk to them. So. You are short. You want to stand in front? I don't think they have a box for you. Here you go.
That's a good idea.
Step right here. Want your notes? He even had notes for himself.
Tell us your name, buddy.
My name is William Greenway. So, my name is William Greenway. I am 10 years old. I have 3 sisters. I attend MSMS, this building. I am in the gifted program. I like to play soccer. I attend Cub Scouts. And some of my hobbies are to tinker, play with my friends, like shoot Nerf guns at each other, play video games, especially Fortnite Battle Royale. So I have the symptom eosinophilic esophagitis. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. I have the same allergies my mom had listed: eggs, milk, wheat, peanut, tree nut, and sesame. I am here to talk about the new policy and try and give a suggestion that may be able to change it. I am a kid who has had multiple restrictions due to my allergies, and when the class gets a reward, as my mom had said, I'd normally be able to have a treat that my mom had brought, and now I can't even have that. So I'd like you to try and imagine yourself as your life as a kid who has food allergies such as me. Try imagining what it would be like to be in school and everyone else got ice cream while you got, let's say, a fruit roll-up or a small box of Nerds. So one of the reasons I dislike the policy is because, as my mom had also said, it restricts kids with food allergies. And my suggestion to secure that is to kind of like tweak the policy a teeny bit. Still keep like a safe list just in case parents haven't been able to buy a treat for themselves. Like contact parents, see what they would think they would have their kids do if someone had a birthday and they hadn't been able to buy a treat yet. So their kid would still be able to have like at least some candy while everyone else got a cupcake and wouldn't be completely excluded. Thank you for listening, and please think about changing your policy.
Good job, Lloyd. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the school board at this time on? Please state your name and address for the record.
Adrian Weaver, 449 Blackberry Drive, and I'm going to touch on the food policy as well. Probably not as eloquently as Lynn did, but I will try. I have two kids. One goes to University Park. She's 8, and then I have a little guy. He'll be in University Park next year. My little guy has GI issues. He can't tolerate milk, dairy products. If he even glances at a milk product, he's in the bathroom for 4 days. My daughter has reactions to erythrosine. It's a little better now. If you don't know what that is, it's mostly chemicals, food dyes, red dye. I do have an issue with this policy after glancing through the items on the list, namely with the super bakery items, which would be all the sweets that you have on the list. I'm real big with chemicals. I don't like them in my food. Like I said, I watch very carefully what my children eat for the reasons I stated earlier. Most of the items, for example, the chocolate cupcake from Let's Celebrate, which is one of the items on the list, has things like polysorbate 60. So poly 60 is a polymer, and the chemical makeup, when it reacts with other foods, causes a toxicity concern, immunotoxicity, cancer, things like that. And this is the things that we have in the cupcakes that we're feeding our children. Sucralose, which we all know is just a byproduct of a refined sugar, artificial flavor, soy, sodium hexametaphosphate, and there's maybe 2 ingredients that you can consider real food in the cupcake. There's also dairy, so that pretty much rules my son out when he goes to the school. Also, in that cupcake alone, 18.6% of sugar is by weight, which is pretty abysmal if you think about it. It's pathetic, honestly. And I know that follows USDA guidelines, but again, USDA guidelines, they're not very reasonable sometimes. A lot of the other items, too, that aren't sweet, we can consider them savory items, would be cheese, cheddar, white cooked delight, which one of the allergens is milk. Another one would be vanilla or cheddar Chex Mix, again, an allergies milk in there. We have cheese puffs, which, an allergen is milk. Plain salted chips, for some reason, has milk in it as well, lactose. Potato, baked sour cream, and cheddar. Again, one of the major allergens is milk. So basically, the only thing that my son could have would be an apple, probably the carrot sticks. And let's be honest, he's not going to want to stick a candle on an apple and sing happy birthday, or just sing happy birthday with an apple and hand them out to his friends. It's just not how it is with the kids. Another issue I have with it as well is, I believe I read on the sheet where it lists the items that you can have for the snacks, that to do this list was an attempt to try to, no, thank you, keep cross-contamination away, namely nuts. I do, as a parent with a kid with food allergies, I do make every attempt to try to produce clean foods for everyone in the class. I'm very conscious of who in the class that my daughter's in, who has an allergy, who doesn't, and if someone has an allergy, then I make every accommodation for them. I, give them a nut-free treat, egg-free treat, anything like that. The issue is, too, most of these companies on this list, Frito, for one, Frito-Lay, Blue Bunny, let's see, General Mills, Betty Crocker, they've all had recalls in the past, allergen recalls, Listeria recalls as well, but most of them are allergen recalls. From 2018 to 2017, there's 16 pages on the USD website of companies that have had recalls from allergen products. Most of them are nuts. There's a lot of milk products, and there's a lot of tree nuts, hazelnuts, eggs. So I'm just saying that companies as well, you can't always rely on them to produce a safe product for your child in the classroom. I feel more confident in my ability to produce a safe product for the children in the class. So I was just asking to maybe have the policy tweaked as well. Maybe let a parent who knows what her child can eat, let me bring a treat in for my child, and maybe the other children as well. I can accommodate my child pretty well and the other kids. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. Or else I would say, let us have a list of foods other than from a grocery store, say Giant Eagle. Give us a list of foods from Giant Eagle that we're able to produce for the kids to bring into the class. I don't think it's fair to just stick to this list here. I certainly don't like the Blue Bunny cupcakes, and I don't like any other sweets. So I'm asking you to maybe revise that and see if there's any other sweet items that they can use. There's a great resource. I can't think of the name now. I think it's on the USD website that will tell you what stores sell gluten-free items, tree nut free items, stone fruit-free items, egg-free items, and what's safe for a classroom and for kids to eat. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For our speakers tonight, we do have Mr. Martin Lorenzo, our food service director, who has been taking notes I will be meeting with Mr. Lorenzo along with our central administration team to digest this information and see if we can tweak the policy.
Can you, before anybody else talk, I'm not putting you on the spot because I asked you about this. Could you just say why the policy was revisited so people understand? Because there's things out there like, well, we're trying to make money for the food service department. Maybe just address the reasons behind it. And also, Mr. Lorenzo, is it accurate that it's a parent who has a child with an allergy cannot bring in a treat for their own child? Is that accurate?
I would say based on how the policy.
Those are two questions, and anything else that you think pertinent?
Hi. Yes, I'd say based on the way the policy currently reads, that would be accurate. I think whenever this amendment was brought to the board for the policy, the primary reason was for safety reasons, to try to really eliminate to the highest degree possible outside allergens coming in by us controlling that list. The vision was that we'd be able to be a much simpler job in doing so. However, some of the information shared tonight really made it much more clear that even though we thought we had a relatively reasonable list, it still needs a lot of work. So we do appreciate the feedback that was given. The Health Council's primary intention here was for safety. Mr. Mateo had kind of brought it up along with the school nurses of what can we do to try to simplify the process of bringing or maybe placing restriction on outside foods so that we would have a more of a safer situation for the students within our classrooms to be able to consume food at parties. That was really the spirit of it all. I know Mrs. Cerrucci spoke to the whole, profiting off of this. Is the food service making a little bit of money off of this? Yes. However, if you were to compare items on this list versus what we were selling them in our lines during operations, substantial cut in the pricing. We're really, trust me, this is really the last thing we really wanted to take on as a whole, but whenever it's presented to the group as a safety issue, and of course your ears prop up, and you're trying to do what's best for the safety of the students. So that's why we proceeded with coming up with an amendment to the policy. The existing policy, there's been a wellness policy in place for well over a decade, but it was revised just last year, and then that was part of Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. That was a requirement. And then, Mr. Mateo had brought to the group for us to consider making an amendment restricting outside food coming in. And the whole reason behind it, like I said, was for safety. So without further ado, I know Dr. Short had mentioned, having a meeting and trying to get some better language or maybe tweaking this policy. I think I'm going to give some high consideration to trying to get a health council meeting for next month. It's open to the public, and I'll send that email out as I always do. I've always encouraged each building's principal to do an e-blast out to make sure that each building's PTO representation would see what's on the agenda. So you're all be more than welcome, and some of the expertise that I've heard here, you kind of make me feel as if I need to learn a lot about allergens based on what I've heard tonight, even though I have a pretty good background in that area. So we do thank you for bringing this to attention, and we definitely want to, moving forward with a policy, I don't mean to speak for the board, but from myself as the committee chairperson for the Health Council, we'd like to really have something that's going to work for everyone involved. And the last thing we really wanted to do was to restrict foods from coming in for those students who that have such severe allergy situations that the only way you're really going to find something safe is if mom or dad makes it at home themselves. And I am familiar with that sort of situation. I have some friends close to my family with similar situations where mom actually is a full-time stay-at-home mom for the very reason that they have 2 children with such severe allergies that that's her job, is to make sure that they can eat safely, 3 squares a day. I hope I answered your questions. Is there anything else that I could answer with regards to this at this time?
If I could just add that from the Health Council meeting, we would then have a policy committee meeting. I do know, I think Dr. Chakey been in contact with you yet? Yes. For an October meeting. So depending upon how that meeting, Health Council, ties in with our policy committee meeting, we'll see if we can get a recommendation moving forward.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion at this time? Okay, well, you're the president. Well, I just think because the policy meeting and the food wellness council meeting is going to take some time, I would like to at least make a motion that parents who have students with allergies can immediately be the ones that provide the treat for their student, because I don't want those kids to be missing out or be having something that's unsafe while we work this out for the next 2 months. So that would just be my suggestion, to make a motion to immediately amend the policy that kids with food allergies, their parents can bring them in a treat.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Questions or comments on the motion?
I personally, I appreciate the motion. I don't think it's actually, in my opinion, necessary. I think it's about the interpretation of the actual policy, and which there's been a lot of questions about.
You just said that that's the way the policy read.
In his opinion.
I said I believe.
Right,
based on-
but in the same line of thinking, my daughter goes to Moss Side Middle. She has the late lunch, so they're allowed to bring in a snack every day to eat in the classroom. They don't have to pick from that list for that snack. So you are allowed to send your child to school every day with something that they're going to consume for themselves in the classroom. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Short, but when I read this policy and approved this policy, I was under the impression that this was about distributing to other people's children.
That's the
That as
intent.
long as you are feeding your child alone, you're good. It's about controlling what's going into the hands of other kids and controlling that environment. So I think under the current wording of the policy, if there is a party, or a celebration, however you want to call it, and and there's going to be cupcakes, whatever, from that list coming on, and you have a child with special food allergen, requirements, I personally don't think that it's a violation of this policy to send your child with their own snack for that celebration.
So you're saying we don't need the.
I'm saying it's a matter of interpretation and enforcement rather than amending the actual policy.
Well, if I was somebody like Lynn, I would not want anybody else feeding my child.
Right.
Except her.
Right, and I don't think anybody
And
here
age
wants
group
her to
too.
not be able to send her child to school with food that she knows is healthy and appropriate for her child. And I don't think that's the spirit of the policy to begin with.
So it sounds as if the communication of the party is
Correct.
essential to the parent, so that child can bring something in.
Yeah, that's a sentence I never thought I'd have to discuss in a board meeting, but, but yeah, no, that's, in my opinion, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on it.
Obviously, it's unclear, so it needs to be clear.
Any other questions or comments?
Don't we have to wait 7 days for this motion to be offered?
We would have to vote, we have to get a supermajority to consider it, and then we would vote on it because that policy is worded.
We have
as
tied
such.
our hands
But
awfully tight.
I believe on top of that, we would also have to put this policy amendment on 30-day display, am I right?
Minor amendments don't need 30 displays.
Is this a minor or is this a major amendment?
It's a minor amendment. You just said we didn't even need it. It was clarification.
Correct.
If it's not even needed, it's definitely minor.
That's why I'm
It
asking.
would not require 30-day review.
I object, Bruce.
Go ahead, Mr. Boba.
While we're discussing policies in general.
I just want to fix the problem for these people.
Turn your mic down.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
We're having discussion.
You have
Questions or
to
comments?
vote on the motion. I respect what Mr. Ritter says. If 6 people vote to approve that Mary Beth's policy, or change in policy, it goes into effect.
Doesn't need 30-day review?
No, it's minor. We said minor policy changes don't require 30-day review.
And there's also a health and safety issue here that I think overrides everything. Personally, I think Mary Beth's motion and the second help to clarify what is in the present policy. I see it as a minor change to the policy as well. And as such, I think you should vote on it.
We don't have to cut discussion, though. We're still having discussion if anybody wants
He's
to.
saying we are permitted to vote on it. We
Yeah.
don't have to wait 7 days or 30 days.
That was what was raised, the procedural question.
Right.
I don't think there's a procedural problem with voting on it, provided you get 6 votes.
Roll call.
Any other
Did
questions
Jack,
or
Mr. Bowman,
comments?
did you have something?
No, I think there's still discussion.
Actually, what I wanted to address was something else Ms. Greenway said, but it's not specifically related to this motion. So let's vote on this if y'all are.
Okay.
Body, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ritter?
I'm not clear what the motion is again, so Mary Beth, could you state it one more time, please?
Yes, I'll try.
Thank you.
It's kind of off the cuff. The motion is that parents who have children with food allergies are permitted to bring in treats from their home for their own child immediately. If there's any unclear message in the current policy, that would clear that up.
That was seconded.
By George.
And by bringing, the child could bring it in themselves on behalf of the parents.
Yes,
I
the
understand what you're
parent
saying.
is the one that selects.
So I vote yes. Thank you.
I'm sorry, may I make a suggestion? When you say a parent with food allergies, that doesn't include children with celiacs, and this will come up. So maybe the wording should be with dietary restrictions.
Okay.
Rather than a child with food allergies. I have many friends with celiacs and other reasons.
Okay, so we're going to use dietary.
We're going to use dietary restrictions, not food allergies.
Still a yes, John?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ritter, yes. Mrs. Warning?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, Mary Beth? You good?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else at this time wish to address the board on any items? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jeanette Beagle. I'm 105 Wiltshire Circle in Monroeville. And I too wanted to speak about the snack list for the parties. I appreciate the vote and the motion and to help make this safer for our students. That was part of the major concern because I'm looking up food labels for things to see because I have a niece that is basically allergic to almost everything under the moon that this entire list she wouldn't have but the water. Things that I noticed were put up on the website because I had asked Mr. Lorenzo for the ingredient lists because I had come across a list online that had said, you know, according to our standards, yes, it contains no nuts. But when you read labels, you have to read the bottom of all your ingredient lists because it says it may be processed on machines that are contaminated with those nuts. So that was a big part of my thing was the nutrition lists that we have I don't think are complete. My other question was, and I'm coming from the PTO side of this, is we have our holiday parties. And I know this policy is not going to go away, but the big issue for me is our fun and fitness day. PTO, that's the big deal. It's a big deal for our kids. A lot of our snacks, water, or donations. Looking at just a, you know, we have 15 classrooms with about 340 students at UP, so buying water for those students for just one bottle of water each is $153. When I can go get 10 cases of water for $30 at Sam's Club, the same size. It becomes, the PTO does a lot to fundraise for these students. We've purchased calculators, gym equipment. There's a lot of things that PTO does above and beyond that forcing us to purchase food for even fun and fitness may push PTOs over a budget with money that they don't have. So I'd like to be able to see some consideration given for major events like this. Holiday parties, I'm fine with. We need to protect the students, children with allergies. I'm good with that. If there's an approved list of, hey, this is where you can get bakery items from that are okay, that are not on, I'm fine with that as long as it is completely researched. The safety of the students is what it is about, but I am concerned with the rollover cost that it's going to cost PTOs now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board?
Hi, my name is Ann Tanis, 2138 Ramsey Road. I have two daughters, both at Ramsey, second and third grade, and I am very grateful that neither of them have allergies. So apparently I'm the only parent here tonight who does not have children with allergies, and I have to say that when I saw the snack list, I was quite shocked. The fact that we are putting all of our kids in the same boat, and that we are now forced that we all have to order off this list. I have been doing holiday parties for the past 4 years now, and before we do any of the parties, I always inquire with the teacher to find out if there are any allergies, and I work with them, I work with the parents involved, and we always come up with a great solution. The parents are happy, the children are happy, and sometimes there aren't allergies. It doesn't mean that every classroom, of course, has an allergy, and we've not had a problem in the past. I'm part of the Ramsey PTO, and in talking with a lot of the mothers who participate all the time and fathers, I can't say that anybody is really, really thrilled about being part of any of the holiday parties coming up. What are we to do? Okay, we're all going to be ordering off the same list. It takes away any kind of creativity. There's been mention, well, just get pencils, get erasers. I mean, quite frankly, why don't we just throw all of our money away rather than trying to celebrate it? Just all goes into the garbage, when they come home anyway. I'm not saying that every celebration has to revolve around food, but at the same time, kids are kids for such a small period of time. This is, K through 4 in the elementary schools. And it's just taking away any kind of enjoyment. For birthday parties, there's the excitement of bringing in a treat, whatever it may be, and it's just taking away any kind of enjoyment. That being said, I am not trying to be uncaring whatsoever. I'm just trying to be a voice for those of us parents that, we are very fortunate in that our children do not have allergies, but why are we being reprimanded for everybody else in that situation? And the amendment that was just brought up here is so that parents of children with allergies can send in a specific treat that they alone can enjoy. While my children who don't have an allergy, they're stuck to that list, which, quite frankly, a friend of mine already ordered the cupcakes off there, and boy, if you looked at it, it made a little Debbie look like it came from the Oakmont Bakery. It was such an unappealing cupcake off there, and this is what the children are expected to have. And I think it just really takes away an incentive for parents here, and I just really think that there has to be another option. And as the next snack list or whatever it may be, please get parent input. Please just don't make this something that principals and food directors and nurses, please get parent input on this, because we are the ones that you really want, I would hope, to be in the classroom and really making a difference, rather than just the administration doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else at this time wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move to board reports. Start with Scrumgard.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I just wanted to let everyone know that the Special Education Parent Network first evening will be Tuesday, September 25th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Monroeville Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Chakey.
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Rossi.
Nothing further.
Mr. Schott.
Nothing further, thank you.
Ms. Crump.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Dice.
Nothing further.
Dr. Short.
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Kelstein.
Nothing at this time.
Gottman.
Sorry, I'm going to break the trend here. Okay, tomorrow night is the beginning of Yom Kippur, the second of two major holidays. So again, to the Jewish community, happy holidays. And I am really urging our art teachers and art departments to produce new artwork. This has been up here, as great as it is. You can only say so much about a pomegranate. So I am looking forward to new artwork. I'm hoping next month.
October.
So with that, that's all I got.
McIntyre.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Lapswich.
Yeah, thank you, Scotty. I have to applaud the gentleman with his concern about the school cross, the bus stop, for your child and everybody else's child. It might have been overlooked for years, but at least you come forward with your concerns to this board. And I personally, as a school board member, will go with Dr. Short and Bonnie Eshaw to check out the situation. And if it is something that's uncalled for, I give you my word it will be taken care of. Also, my hangout anymore is usually at Giant Eagle. People come to me and say, "Oh, I know you." "Yeah, how do you know me?" "Well, I see you on TV." "Oh, good. I'm a celebrity." But they said, "How come you're growing a beard now? Are you going to be Santa Claus at Christmas time?" "No." But if you would have followed me last year, I started growing a beard the first day of football season, hoping to bring it something back to Gateway as a winner. Well, it panned out. We did win the WPAL championship. This year, why I'm growing my beard is that we're going to win the state. So I just want to make it clear to everybody that's why I'm growing my beard. Thank you.
Thank you, George. This morning?
Yes. I don't know if everyone's received this. We usually send them home to all the parents and guardians here at Gateway. If not, we have them out here at the rack. But this is our Olympian swimmer to be, Olivia Livingston, with our Mayor Nick Griesbach. We're so fortunate, if you look in this magazine, what we have both academically and athletically that our students are excelling in. So please feel free to take some if you don't have it. One other thing, last meeting we had our hockey team here, which so many comments, you know, the jerseys look great and everything, but one of the coaches made a comment about a bus being paid for out of extracurricular activity that the kids fundraised. I had gotten some calls. I just wanted to clarify that money was not used from the fundraiser. It was, the bus was paid for out of Mr. Ravesti's shipping and handling fee fund, of whatever they wanted to call it. So it did not come from students' activities. So with that, wishing all the sports activities and everything that's continuing good luck, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Bova?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Ritter?
Nothing.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and speaking.
Thanks for clearing it up.